Hello, guys. It's the Unsmooth Criminal, and this is the last part of What If Deku Was in Team Rainbow. So, where we left off, Deku was just surveying the stadium, and all of a sudden it went boom! And all the people who are in the stadium is freaking out. All the heroes are running and getting every civilian evacuated. And Deku runs in with his guns and knives and his tech gear on. And he sees the Nomus that he killed, and he starts to focus and his eyes get clearer because he is a genetic scientist in this one. So he easily dispatches all the mindless Nomu. But then there's the high-ranking Nomu that fought Endeavor in the last season of My Hero. And that shows up, and it starts to use its quirks, and Deku can't fight against the quirks yet. So he disappears from the Nomu's basically vision. And the Nomu's freaking out, being like, what? He's supposed to be quirkless! And the Nomu, being a little intelligent, knows when a person is quirkless and not. So the Nomu starts freaking out, being like, he's supposed to be quirkless. Why isn't he just bowing down to me and being the weakling he is? And all of a sudden, he gets shot in the head by a sniper. And over the comms, this sniper hears, God damn it! You're supposed to be on patrol. And he goes, sorry, Captain. I heard a big boom, and I just looked over and I saw the stadium was kind of being overrun by creatures. So I took the shot. And then at the stadium, they finally hear the crack of a gun. And he goes, at least your help was appreciated. Over and out, Glaz. And he goes, sir, yes, sir, and turns off his comms again to continue watching. And the high-ranking Nomu's dead on the ground because his brain was blown out. All the other Nomus are dead on the ground because their brains were blown out. And All For One walks in, and he's smarter than all of them combined, but not smarter than Deku. Deku, seeing All For One, starts shooting him with bullets, and All For One, having lots of quirks, gets shot up with bullets, but he still survives. And Deku, seeing this, he pulls out his sausage and walks up to All For One, and All For One saying, yeah, you can't kill me with that weakling, with that little gun. And he goes, yeah, you're right. You know what is the downfall of most quirk users? And he goes, I don't know. I'm gonna humor you, though. What? And he goes, relying on your quirks too much. And he does a hand sign with his finger, and all of a sudden, All For One, who was floating, falls to the ground and gets shot in the face. And now he's dead. Because you cannot survive a gunshot without a quirk. So All For One is dead. Shigaraki, he sees this because he was at the stadium killing civilians to draw out All Might. And All Might was helping with the evacuation. And Deku, who got hit by a few of the All For One blasts, lost his mask and his goggles, so his face is showing. So he immediately pulls up his extra mask and is like, crap. They can see my eyes. Crap. So he turns on the comms and says, Glaz, I need an evac. And Glaz, who has his comms off, is still on patrol and doesn't hear the comms saying he needs an evac. So Glaz ignores him. And so Izuku hides his eyes and runs out of the stadium as quick as possible. And he runs and runs and runs. He finally gets back to his house, and Bakugou, who was worried about him because he wants to be friends, because when Izuku left, he became lonely, and he's like, that nerd was my only friend. Jesus Christ. So he shows up at Deku's house and starts knocking on the door saying, I'm out for the day, can you open up? And all of a sudden he hears a crash through one of the windows behind the house. So he flies over the house and looks to where the crash came from, and he sees that one of the tables inside the house is knocked over. So he just goes through the open window that's always open for Izuku, goes in and sees this tactical geared man just laying on the ground, and he only has a mask on. And he grabs him by the back of the shirt, and this man on instinct throws him over his shoulder, and this man finally gets a pair of goggles that are in one of the drawers, and Bakugou remembers the exact look of these goggles and says, what are Ghost's goggles doing in Izuku's home? Out loud. And Ghost, looking at him with the voice changer and a different mask and the same pair of goggles, says, get out of this house. This house is government property and you're trespassing. And Bakugou says, this, first off, is my friend Izuku's house, and I'm here to talk to him. And Izuku goes, crap! He knows who I am, he knows where I live, crap! And he goes again, this house is government property, please leave this premises before I have lethal force to arrest you or kill you if I so feel like it. And Izuku's like, oh, god damn it, Kachan, just go away! And he goes, fine, Jesus, come back later. And so he leaves out the window, goes back around, and just sits at the door with his ear pressed against the door. And Izuku takes the voice changer off and says, god damn it, Kachan, you're so annoying sometimes. And he's hearing this entire conversation, and Izuku says, I'm going to have to tell Glass that he's freaking 10 times the training. And then they have a helicopter rolling overhead, and this man is just shivering in the helicopter, like, Captain's talking about me. Oh god, what is happening? And so Glass is in the helicopter, and he goes by and is just on patrol, seeing if there's anything suspicious that he needs to go and help with. And Izuku's calming down from his very exhausting fight, so he gets changed from his military gear to his civilian clothes and opens the door to walk out, but Bakugou, who's trying to listen harder because he doesn't know where Izuku is in the house, falls through the door when Izuku unlocks the door and opens the handle. He falls through the door, and Izuku goes, Kachan, what are you doing? And Bakugou goes, oh, hey, I have a question. And he goes, yes. And Bakugou goes, what's your code name? And Izuku, he goes pale, paler than a ghost, and says, my code name, Deku? He goes, nah, not that one. The one the government gave you. And he looks at Kachan and goes, what? And he says, okay, Ghost, you can come out now. And Izuku looks around and be like, who? And he goes, god damn it, Deku, stop playing dumb with me. And he starts getting angry, and and Deku finally drops the facade and says, all right, Pomeranian, you can stop being so pissed off. Fucking asshole. And Bakugou hears this and is just like flabbergasted that Deku's saying this. The one that always was nice to him, that he treated like garbage, but Deku never swore. He never did anything bad. And here he is swearing like a drunken sailor and insulting Bakugou. Bakugou thought they were friends. Well, in reality, Bakugou just was a bully to him. So Bakugou walks in and says, what's different about you? And Deku says, I was through the military, and I'm one of the highest ranking military commanders that you could possibly be. I probably have more authority over the Prime Minister and President of the United States than you could ever think of. And he looks at Deku and goes, you can't be that strong without a quirk. And Deku goes, I have done that training that I've been doing with you guys. And he's finally accepting the role of Ghost. And as I've been doing that training that I've been doing with you guys 30 times harder than you guys. And for the last 10 years. And Bakugou looks at Izuku and goes, wow. That's why. And Deku goes, yeah. And if you tell anybody about my identity, I have permission to shoot you on sight. And he's just staring directly in Bakugou's eyes, not even caring Bakugou has a quirk at this moment. And Bakugou goes, fine. I wasn't going to tell anybody. I was just tired of running from those damn Nomu. He goes, you won't be tired of running from them when I'm done with you. And he says, oh yeah, it's me versus the entire class next time. And Bakugou goes, what do you mean? And he goes, oh yeah, it's going to be me versus the entire class when it's the teachers versus students. And Bakugou, he pales at this going, can you go easy on us? And he goes, hell no. Who's the most thought-provoking person? Kaminari. I'm going to definitely hit him in the head. Really hard. And he looks through the pictures of all the students, all their quirks, their entire background check, and he goes, I have to whip a rock into shape. Hagakure is fine. And he's just telling Bakugou all this, and Bakugou goes, what are you doing? And he goes, oh, I'm giving you guys training schedules and training. So you kind of have to do the training, or I'm not going to go easy on you, or even consider you a student. And he looks at Deku and says, you mean that hell that you put us through? And Deku goes, oh, no. What I'm doing to you is heaven. What I do is hell. And Bakugou goes, no, not to normal people. And he goes, oh yeah, not to normal people. The Rainbow Squad is happy that I'm doing it to them. And he finally gets up on the radio and says, God damn it, Glaz, get the hell down here. And Glaz finally answers to the comms and says, yes, Captain? And he goes, you ignored me when I needed you, so you get 10 times more training. And he goes, yes, Captain. And he he jumps down and he lands on the balcony and walks through and says, yes, Captain, you needed me? And he goes, I did until I got home. And he goes, sorry, Captain. I was doing my rounds and I just finished. And he goes, okay, now you have time to do more training. And he pales at this and goes, yes, Captain. And Bakugou, who sees the side of his face, is seeing him sweating and goes, oh, God. So Izuku says, don't worry, I'm training with you. And the Glass goes, yes, Captain. And he's just getting paler and paler. And now he's matching his suit when he's in the camouflage, the winter camo, and the glass glass sneak peek. That's what he's matching right now. And Bakugou sees this and says, you know, Izuku? And Glass, hearing Ghost's name, goes, Captain, I don't think I should know this. And he goes, if you tell anybody, I have permission to shoot you in the knees. And Glass goes, yes, Captain. And Bakugou goes, so I should call you Ghost around them? And he goes, definitely. Anything else is a very big violation of the privacy policy for our department. And I kind of don't go by Izuku or Deku anymore. I go by the codename Ghost. And Bakugou says, "How did you get that name, by the way?" And Izuku goes, "Oh yeah, I went to basic training, then I went to stealth training, and I kind of passed stealth training before it even supposed to end. So I got the nickname Ghost from all of them, because I've never been able to be seen when I want to be hidden. So, yeah." And he goes, "Oh, so like Hagakure, when she doesn't want to be seen, she's never seen." And he goes, "No, when Hagakure strips, that's what I'm like." And he goes, "Oh. And Glass goes, "Captain, am I needed anymore?" And he goes, "Yes, you are needed. Get the rest of the squad and meet me at UA in 2 months." And he goes, "Yes, Captain." 2 months later, it's the teachers versus students, and instead of the normal, it's the rainbow team versus the teachers. So the teachers are like, "We're going to have a warm-up match with Deku, or not Deku, Ghost, Cav, Capcan, Tachanka, Castle, Rook, Doc." And they just keep listing all the code names, and Izuku walks up and and he looks at the lineup of heroes and says, "I thought the top 10 heroes would be here." And they go, "We are here." And he goes, "You're funny." And Endeavor gets pissed off at Ghost, says, "What do you mean?" And he goes, "Oh my god, you think you guys are actually good?" And he says, "Oh, don't worry, Cav's already behind you." And Endeavor turns around and he sees this scary woman with face paint on and goes, "What the hell is that?" And Cav, hearing this, gets a tick mark on her forehead, and he goes, "Captain, do I have permission to shoot him between the eyes?" And he goes, "Sorry, Cav, but no." And she just storms off and goes to the gun range and starts firing the entire clip of her SMG at the target to cool off. And so 10 hours later, they're finally ready, and the rainbow team is on infiltration duty, and the heroes are there to protect protect a fake hostage that is one of these students. And if the student is shot or marked in any way, the student is supposed to act dead. And they said, "Captain, you want to go in first?" And he goes, No. Let's have... Let's have the first round be... Recruit Sass with the sausage. And he goes, "Sir, yes, sir." Ash, and she goes, "Sir, yes, sir." Blitz, and he goes, "Sir, yes, sir." No, Smoke's a defender. Sledge, nothing said, and he walks forward. And he goes, "Sledge, I still do not understand you." And he just nods, being like, "Yeah, I get that a lot." And he says, who else? And since Endeavor's on the enemy team, I can't put Cav. Bakugou. And he goes, "Sir, yes, sir." They do infiltration, and it's now the final round where all the rainbow team has gone, except for Izuku. And Izuku goes, "Okay, so now it's my turn," and it's the entire 1A and 1B, 2A, 2B, and 3A and 3B against me only. And the entire rainbow team of operators look at him and go, Captain, are you going to go try hard or are you going to go easy on them? And he goes, haven't decided yet. Bakugou gave a good idea, though. And they say, what was it, Captain? And he says, Bakugou gave me an idea of making all of them, if they fail this, and all they have to do is spot me and tag me with a dart or a bullet, in this case. Tag me with it, and I lose. And they go, that's all they have to do? And he goes, yeah. They don't have the same tracking instincts as Cav. And she goes, thanks, Captain. And he goes, no problem. They don't have the same interrogation tactics as Cav. And she goes, thanks, Captain. And she's starting to smile at this point. And he goes, they're also not as sadistic as Cav. And he starts grabbing his chin slightly and basically trying to stroke an imaginary beard. And she goes, thanks, Captain. And she looks down, being a little depressed because he just thinks of her as the sadistic one on the team. And he goes, oh, don't worry. It's a compliment. You can't be a good interrogator without being a little sadistic. So now it's time for the entire match, and I'm only going over how 1A reacts. And Tetsu, because I like Tetsu. He's cool. So, Izuku is released into the building, and when I say released, he vanishes immediately, so everybody's like, where the hell did he go? And all the Rainbow team are using their equipment just to try to keep track of him. Pulse is using his scanner. IQ is using hers to see if he activates any electronics or deactivates them, so she can identify where he is. So 1A is released into the city, and they're like, so all the students are released into the city, and they're like, so all of our tasks are, so the entire task is just to find him and take him out. And the teachers smile and go, yeah, that's all your task is. Now go have fun. And Aizawa is laughing his ass off in the observation room. And all the rainbow operators look at him and say, what's so funny? And he goes, if anybody has seen what Izuku did last time we did this, he would be laughing too. And they all pale and go, what did he do? And he goes, oh, he just beat everybody that was sent after him. And they go, oh, that's normal. And All Might walks in the room and says, oh crap, yawning. He says, I hope that they pass. And they go, the rainbow team goes, if Captain's going easy on them, they will win. If Captain's going hard on them, I'm sorry, but your students are all failures. And so Izuku is doing the level of a 3A student, just barely showing up on anything, and the 3A students are barely able to notice that someone's there right before they're captured or taken down. So it's now time for the 2A does the same. And since Izuku has been training them, the class of 1A has a better time sensing and noticing where Izuku is. Especially Bakugou with his stupidly good animalistic fighting style. So Bakugou is walking through a building and he throws an explosion randomly and freaks everybody else out because they're on edge. He throws an explosion, knocks off the goggles of Izuku, and his eyes show up. He's like the Cheshire Cat right now, only his eyes are glowing. And Bakugou senses him smiling deviously, and he says, run! They all bolt out of the building. And it's currently nighttime too, so everybody's like, oh god, what's happening? And all the class 1A, all the class 1A is the only one left. And Izuku's just like, You're doing pretty good. And Bakugou heard that and turns around and saw him, and he's all of a sudden out. He's out like a light because of Izuku's abilities. He knows takedown tactics, he knows elimination tactics, and to help him with this time, he uses these needles that are coated with a sleeping drug. Very, very strong sleeping drug, obviously. And he just pokes him in the neck whenever he's behind them. So he takes out Bakugou that way, and Bakugou falls to the ground like a sack of potatoes. And everybody looks at Bakugou, and he's out, and they look around, and they see nothing, because it's almost pitch black. And all of a sudden, Todoroki falls to the ground like a sack of potatoes. So his light goes out, and nobody can see anything. And Momo thinks, oh, I'll make night vision goggles. Bad idea. And Izuku sees the slight glow from Momo's quirk and walks up behind Momo. He waits till she puts on the goggles, taps her on the back of the shoulder. She turns around, she screams, and then falls like a sack of potatoes. And he goes, so those are the heavy hitters. Time to do the rest. And Tetsu, who's currently hanging out with Kirishima, walks up to Bakugou and pulls out the needle and says, he's either hitting pressure points to knock us out, or he's using a sleeping drug. And he licks the needle because he's somewhat of a chemical guru, and he says, oh, sleeping drug. And Kirishima walks over and says, how do you know? And he goes, because my tongue is numb right now. This is a very, very, very strong sleeping drug. And Kirishima looks at him and says, why is it that strong? And he goes, it's supposed to instant knock out somebody. And Kirishima goes, oh. So he hardens. Tetsu's been hardened the entire time. And he can't stay hardened the entire time, so he's slowly losing his density in the metal. And all of a sudden, they hear a giant thunk. And then another thunk from a building. And Tetsu's like, Kirishima, we're probably the ones that will survive the longest. So they run over and they investigate it. And Izuku borrowed Sledge's sledgehammer. So he used it to break down 2 walls. And Kirishima and Tetsu walk into the building. They're right next to each other. And Izuku's like, perfect timing! And he drops Sledge's sledgehammer on Kirishima's head, knocking him out. And then he uses the handle of Sledge's sledgehammer and completely knocks out Tetsu. His chrome dome is rocked. So it's now time for the rest of the students of 1A to be eliminated. So they heard 2 more bodies fall, and they're like, oh god. And the rest of the students in 1A are thinking, we're screwed. So Mina's like, I have an idea, but this may or may not work. So she walks out into the middle of nowhere, and she doesn't hear any more of her friends, and she just stands there waiting, and she feels somebody behind her, so she throws the elbow, and all of a sudden it's caught, and he goes, good job! You pass. And then she falls down like a sack of potatoes. Because he's been using this drug to knock them out. If they sense him, he says good job in their ear, very creepily, and then they fall down, asleep. And so the rest of the students start doing that because they heard him say good job, and they're like, okay, he compliments if we can find him. And one student, Aoyama, says, I have an idea. So he does the human bridge, bending over backwards, and he shoots his laser up in the sky, which gives a fairly blinding light to Izuku. So he's closed his eyes and started using his normal senses like a human does whenever they're blind, and he hears them coming towards him to try tagging him. And then he hears a sound of a pressurized pistol, And he drops his head and his entire body to the ground and then jumps back up and runs in one direction that he knows that is clear. And Aoyama is finally giving out because of his stomach. Says, I can't hold this any longer. And he stops and then falls to the ground, clutching his stomach. And Izuku walks up to Aoyama very calmly and says, good thinking. Good thinking. Bad execution. And then Aoyama's asleep. So Bakugou passed, Mina passed, Aoyama passed, Tetsu and Kirishima passed. But they passed just barely because Kirishima blocked the sledgehammer and then got knocked out by it too because he didn't block it right. And Tetsu, being more skilled than the rest of the Class 1B students, knew that Izuku was coming with the sledgehammer and ducked the original blow from the hammer because it hit Kirishima and then was about to hit Tetsu, but he ducked it. And they now go to the rest of the class, and Mineta, I believe I expelled. Aoyama is good. Todoroki failed. Momo, great idea. Bad execution. When it's dark and you have a glowing quirk, don't use it. Unless it can lighten up the entire area. So he says she needs work, but she can pass. Then he goes on and tests everybody else. And the only one who he hated and used full tryhard mode on was Uraraka. And she's been cranking this out double time. And he's like, I don't know why, but I don't like her. So I'm going to give her double the work. And so she's been cranking out double time. And he goes full tryhard. And all of a sudden, he disappears from all scanners and all night vision. And everybody looks at, and all the Rainbow team goes, whoever he's hunting, they're screwed. And the entire UA staff go, hunting? At the same time. And except for Nezu, he goes, And he takes a sip of his tea and goes, seems like he's on tryhard mode. And they go, yeah, once he starts going serious, you can't find him no matter what. And he asks, is this why he's known as the Ghost? And they go, no. He's known as the Ghost because he can sneak up on Cav and the captain at the same time. And Cav looks at everybody and says, hey, he's 10 times better than me at sneaking, okay? And they go, yeah, we know. But the captain, bruh, the captain's 20 times better than all of us. Well, except you, Cav. He's only 5 times better than you. So, duh, I'm the best at sneaking. And they go, no, he is. And they point to the screen where he just shows up like Slenderman right behind Uraraka. And Uraraka turns around and Izuku's gone again because of his speed and abnormal speed and abnormal strength. He's gone, and Uraraka starts freaking out because she just felt something behind her and breathing down her neck, and he just wants to terrify her. So he just keeps doing that and doing that and doing that until she finally says, I give up, I'm done. And she raises her hand and says, I'm out. I don't care, I'm out. And she just walks out, and he starts laughing his ass off. And he's just in a building a little further away from them so they can't hear him. And he's just rolling on the ground dying. And Cav sees this and is like, whatever that girl did to him, I feel bad for her. And all the teachers in UA look at her and go, why? And Cav says, we never see that. And she points to the screen with Izuku just dying on the floor laughing. And Glaz, who's finally looking at the screen, is horrified. And he says, I'm gonna take my leave. I need to go polish my guns. And they go, if Captain sees you missing, you're gonna get extra training. And he goes, I don't care. I'm going. And he leaves, and they go, what did Captain do to class again? And IQ goes, oh, crap. Remember the last time that Glass fought Captain in a sniper battle? And they all go, yeah. And she goes, remember his reaction? And she points at the screen, and they all look at it, and he goes, oh, yeah. They walk out, and they go to the building without anybody noticing, and they walk into the room and say, hey, Captain, your sadistic side's coming out. And he hears this and goes, oh, crap, my mask fell. And he puts his mask back on, figurative mask, and he goes serious again and says, thank you, I'm not going to improve your training because you left the room and interfered with this student's test. And they go, thank you, Captain, we shall take our leave. And they all leave back to the room, and they go, oh, thank God. And everybody, or all the UA teachers, asks what happened the last time Glaz had a competition with your Captain. And all the Rainbow unit says, no comment, at the exact same time. And they have a shiver go down their spine. Yes, I'm making Izuku absolutely terrifying in this one. So he does the rest of the class, and the only one that's actually close to getting him is Mineta, because Mineta's always paranoid that someone's going to hit him. Or, no, not Mineta. Hagakure. Hagakure is the only one close to actually getting to him, because she's stripped, and she was just walking around like normal, and him using the genetic engineering, he took a pill, and this pill changed his eyes from cat to snake. So he doesn't see in the night anymore. He sees he sees heat. He has thermal vision. And he walks out of the building and sees that Hagakure is right there and almost bumped into him. And he goes, And this is all in his head. I could take her out right now or terrify her later. Terrify her later. And he goes, hey, how are you doing? I'm right behind you. And he just disappears, basically. And she's quickly turning around constantly. And he goes to the rest of the students and takes them out one by one, saying which ones pass and which ones fail. And it's finally time for Hagakure, who's on edge constantly now. And he walks up behind her and is about to tap her on the shoulder and talk to her when she hits him square in the face. And the entire Rainbow unit sees this and goes, oh my God, what the hell just happened? And Aizawa goes, what's wrong? And they all look at Izuku and say, what the hell just happened to our captain? And Aizawa looks and he's in the thermal imaging cameras that Hagakure just landed a punch on Izuku, and says, Hagakure just landed a punch on Izuku. And they all say, who? The invisible girl just landed a punch on our captain when we can't even land a punch on our captain without him wanting to. And Aizawa says, what do you mean? It happens all the time. She's the only one who can actually land a hit on him in the entire class. And they all look at Aizawa and go, what is her quirk and what has she been doing the last few years? And he goes, her quirk is invisibility and she can't turn it off. And the last few years she's been at UA studying with us. And they go, we need to talk to her, because they've been trying to find a way to reverse Hagakure's quirk so they can allow her to see herself. So Izuku finally takes Hagakure down, and he has a giant black eye, and he goes, this hurts, this hurts, this hurts. And he walks into the observation room. He doesn't have goggles on, and he has a giant freaking black eye that everybody sees and looks at and is like, if we ask him about it, we'll get more training. If they ask him about it, they'll just need to go against him. So Cav, who has gotten a little closer to Aizawa and nudges him forward a little, and Aizawa says, we've all been wondering, including the Rainbow Team, been wondering, and they all pale at this, and they start shaking their head. No, don't include us. Don't include us. And Aizawa just continues. Why has Hagakure been able to land a hit on you and not anybody else? And Izuku goes, I don't know, actually. I could see her perfectly fine with the snake vision, and damn, it's bright in here. So he shuts his eyes and focuses and calms down. So his eyes change back to human. And he looks back and he goes, oh my god, it's bright. But yeah, I can see perfectly fine now. And the Rainbow Team looks at him and he goes, Captain, are you okay? And he goes, I'm perfectly fine. Just for asking me a dumbass question, I'm now going to increase your training by tenfold. And they're like, yes, sir. And they all run out of the room and start training. And the training grounds that Izuku just came from. And he goes, good job. And all the heroes look at him and say, why is he only been able to be touched by Hagakure? And Nezu, putting a few theories out in his mind, say, And he says Izuku's name finally and says, Izuku Midoriya. And Ghost doesn't respond. And Nezu says, oh, sorry. Ghost. And he says, yes, sir. And Nezu says, could it be that you have a crush on Higakure? And Izuku, he goes, no, sir. And in his straight face, but he's also trained to be straight face all the time. But on the inside, he's like, could I actually have a crush on her? Because around her, I act different than normal. And Higakure, who's currently knocked out by a needle in her neck, gets to Recovery Girl by Izuku carrying her, and everybody else was carried by the teachers. And he doesn't know why, but he just feels like he needs to carry Hagakure, and all the other teachers don't need to touch Hagakure. So he takes the needle out and says it'll wear off in like 5 to 10 minutes. 5 to 10 minutes later, Hagakure wakes up and asks, where's Ghost? I need to tell him that I'm sorry for hitting him in the face. And he goes, no need. I already got it healed. And hold on. And she sees this looking at her, and she, for the first time ever, gets a bloody nose, and her nose turns red. And everybody can see her nose. That's it. And he goes, are you okay? You're bleeding. And she looks down and she actually sees her nose, and he's like, I'm fine, and wipes the blood and says, so what's your real name? And he goes, you could just call me Deku. And she goes, why Deku? And he goes, because without my uniform, I'm useless. And she goes, you're not useless. And she just blurts this out, you're hot. And he starts laughing. And he finally says, no. And he just goes, no, I'm not. And he says, you should see either Sledge without a shirt, or was it Rook without a shirt. And she says, that gas mask dude that doesn't talk, and the dude that brings ceramic plates ceramic plates everywhere. And he goes, bingo! And she goes, oh. And yes, he currently is smoking, but that's because he smokes every once in a while when he has large pain. And he finally flicks the cigarette out and says, well, hey, now you're fine. I'm heading home and off to bed. So he starts walking away, and Hagakure says, wait, hold on. Are you okay? Because I kind of hit you really hard. And he still has the bruise, the very big purple bruise from Hagakure hitting him. And he goes, I'm perfectly fine. And I only smoke when I'm hurt, so I'm perfectly fine now. And he gives this weird, like, I'm okay-ish kind of face. And Hagakure goes, you're not fine. I hit you really hard in the face. And he goes, I've been hit with sledgehammer in the face. I'm perfectly fine. And he walks out and walks home. He gets on his bed and promptly passes out. And since she was the only one who was waking up so far, because he took it out while he was walking her to the infirmary room, and the rest of the Rainbow team put up cameras to see what his reaction to Hagakure waking up is. He walks into his room. Before he passes out, he walks over to his computer and presses the delete button. And while they're watching the tape back, it all of a sudden goes poof. And it has the skull and it goes, hey, hey. And IQ's like, what the hell's going on? And one of the hacker chicks goes, oh crap, I know I shouldn't have taught him that. And IQ looks over and says, what do you mean? And she goes, I kind of taught him how to hack. And she goes, damn it, that was the only clue if he was actually wanting to date that girl. And they start yelling at each other, and Izuku, hearing this, goes, did the entire building get bought out by the freaking government? So all of a sudden everybody feels this giant weight on them, and they're like, oh god. And the only one who doesn't feel this weight, because their bloodlust is as strong as his, is Cav. But Cav, who felt just a tiny sliver of pressure and chilled down her spine, goes, I'ma go, peace. And she just disappears like everybody else. She disappears into like the void, like she normally does. And Izuku walks in saying, I'm trying to sleep. And he pronounces the syllables really loud, and he goes, yes sir, right sir. And they promptly go to sleep. And over the training camp, he's just sitting there watching them train. And every time that someone gets caught slacking, he says that you got to do one of my circuits now. And so they go, sir, yes sir, like everybody else. And they see the Rainbow team come in, and they start training. And Tiger looks at this kid who's looking like this because he took off his mask, and everybody knows who he is now. He took off his mask, and Tiger says, who are you to give these very strong people orders? And Cav, hearing this reaction to Izuku, goes, should I save him? And Sledge just walks up in front of her and nods yes. And she's like, fine, but you owe me. And Sledge just nods and says, yes, I understand. And so she goes ethereal form, grabs Tiger, goes back into ethereal form, and runs away. And when Tiger gets unethereal, he asks what the hell happened. And she goes, I saved you from our captain. And he looks at this kid from the forest and says, no. He's a student at UA. And she goes, yeah, he is. After we forced him to go to UA. And he goes, you're funny, but he couldn't be your captain. And she goes, sadly, he is. And if you piss him off, everybody in the rainbow team gets the consequences, including you. So don't piss him off. And she released a little bit of bloodlust, and Izuku, feeling a little bit of pressure, goes, should I? And so he's like, yeah, and his mask falls a little, and he starts laughing maniacally, and the entire Rainbow team pale at this because they feel the entire weight of the pressure, and Tiger feels it too. Everybody else just hears a maniacal laughter from Deku and goes, don't mess with him right now, got it. And the entire Rainbow team starts doing drills 2 times faster than they normally would, and he stops laughing maniacally and just goes back with a mask. And Cav, who's currently sweating bullets because she actually felt it that time, says, I'm going to train. You want to join? And Tiger, who's on the ground panting, goes, yes, ma'am. And they go train, and they do what the Rainbow team normally does. So Izuku's just sitting there going, it's my turn to train. And so he does 10 times harder than what they do, and it's finally dinner time, and Izuku finally comes in and without a shirt on, sweating, and he's ripped. And Hagakure sees this, and her nose starts to bleed a little, and goes, oh my god, my crush is getting even harder to hold in. And Sue, seeing this, says, oh, well, do you have a crush? And Mina, hearing crush, goes, tea? Spill it. And all the girls herd around Hagakure, and Hagakure just faints. And Izuku, who has the thermal vision on because he had to be able to see at night without using his cat vision, saw Hagakure fainting and caught her and says, okay, that's enough. You can leave her alone. She's obviously overheating because I could see her from that far away. And he points to the door and go, wait, you could see her? And he goes, yeah, I can see everybody's body heat. And the Rainbow team, who's currently hiding around the corner, goes, crap, 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 crap. Can he see ours? And he goes, Team Rainbow, if you're not training in 5 minutes, you're obviously going home. And they go, oh crap. And so they go outside and start training again. And they go, it's kind of weird having a kid our age boss around adults. And he goes, not when you're in my field. And they go, okay, makes sense. And so they go on with their day. 2 days later, it's the test of courage, and Hagakure and Izuku are going on the test of courage. And Izuku, with his mask, doesn't get scared at all, but Hagakure, it gets a little frightened. But Izuku honestly would never get scared, even without his mask, because he's seen some horrible stuff. So the villains attack, and Izuku, who had a pistol on him, and he always has a pistol on him, and knives, starts running to the burning forest, and he turns off his snake eyes so he can actually see, because it's currently bright as hell in there. And he finally sees this burnt chicken nugget looking guy, and a guy who's speaking twice. And he says, freeze or you will be shot, in a really loud voice so everybody can hear him. And Toga hears this and goes, who may you be? And she looks over at this kid and sees him and gets a nosebleed. He goes, I like him. He's cute and hot. And she said this out loud, and the gas guy who's currently next to Toga sees this kid and he goes, I don't think you should mess with him. And Toga goes, why? I just want to see him bleed a little. And the gas guy goes, isn't he the one who stopped the Nomu at the USJ in the sports festival? And she goes, is he? She looks over and says, no, the other guy had a mask on. And the gas guy goes, yes, but he also had guns, and he had knives on him. And look over, and Toga looks over and sees the overabundance of knives and the one gun and goes, "You may be right." And the gas guy goes, "I know. I think we should stop moving and heed what he says." And Toga goes, "Nah," and she walks forward and all of a sudden gets shot in her shoulder. And Deku presses on his comms and says, "Glass, good shot. Now take out the burnt chicken nugget and the guy who's speaking twice, and I'll take care of those two." And he goes, "Sir, yes, sir." So all they hear is the crack of two shots and two bodies fall. Then they hear the crack of two shots and two bodies fall. And Glass, who's currently on the hill, gets attacked by Muscular, but the person who's supposed to save him is Sledge. And Sledge walks up behind Muscular very quietly and sledges Muscular's face in 3 times. So Muscular's dead, everybody else is dead, and Mr. Compress still gets Bakugou, and okay, Mr. Compress still gets one of the students and holds them hostage and gets away. And Izuku says, "Team Rainbow, we are on a new mission." And they say, "Sir, yes, sir." And he picks out his team, and it's Sledge, Fuse, Habana, and Twitch. Sledge, Fuse, Habana, Twitch, and Recruit. He likes Recruit. Recruit gets along with him. And Recruit goes, "Sir, yes, sir." And he picks up the MP5 and the M1911. And Izuku says, "Good choice." And he turns to the other ones, and he sees their proficient weapons. And he goes, "Okay, move out." And he drives with the vehicle all the way to the villain's hideout and says, "Okay, in this building there seems to be at least 11, maybe 12, definitely not 13 enemies. There seems to be a really strong one in the back, and if you get touched by him, you lose your quirk, so I suggest you don't get touched." And they go, "What do you mean you lose your quirk?" And he goes, "Exactly that. The one in the back is all for what?" And all the quirk users pale, and except for Recruit, because he never uses his quirk. And everybody asks, "Doesn't Recruit have a quirk?" And Recruit goes, "I do have a quirk, but I never use it because I don't like it." And they go, "Makes sense." So they go through the normal steps of preparing, droning, scanning where all the people are, but no one notices the drones. And the people who do notice Twitch's drone gets tased and knocked out. So it's now time for the infiltration, and infiltration goes smoothly. And when they find Bakugou, they call in the heroes, and the heroes bust in, get the kidnapped child out, and the entire Rainbow Squad goes into the back room before Kurogiri can portal All for One away, and Aizawa goes with them because he's needed. And no, All for One is dead. All for One's successor is there, and so they go into the back room, and Aizawa cancels All for One's quirk, the new All for One's quirk, and Kurogiri's quirk at the same time. And Izuku walks in and puts a gun up to the guy's head and says, "This quirk dies with you," and shoots the bullet. Then goes up to Kurogiri and says, "I'm sorry, my friend, but I might have liked you in another life," and shoots the bullet. And now it's the hero licensing exams, and that goes to canon with everybody passing and failing with who they are, except for Deku, because he's not in there. He's not going for a hero. He's just going for extra training and to understand hero society a little bit more. And now it's time for the raid on the Overhaul compound. So the drones go in and they scan, they find everybody, and they're like, okay, Fuse, there's one room in particular you cannot bomb. And he goes, sir, yes, sir. And he goes and he locks his gadgets all the way through and throughout, and he doesn't bomb one room. He goes, okay, good. Fire! And Fuse lights up the rooms, and all of the Overhaul minions are dead. Not including Overhaul, because he's currently testing on Eri. And he's currently in the basement, just underneath the thing, so he feels every vibration from the explosion. So he immediately knows, run! But before he can, he gets attacked by someone who he didn't notice was there. And Cav, who has the ethereal form, brought along Izuku, because Izuku's more of a hand-to-hand fighter than Cav is. She's more of bring them down with guns and interrogate them then. But Izuku's like, okay, I know Overhaul's quirk. I know how to deal with him. Drop me off there. So Cav dropped him off there, and Izuku's currently fighting with Overhaul and says, oh, it's getting boring. So he pulls out his gun from behind his back and shoots Overhaul in the head. And he quickly covers the little girl's eyes before Overhaul could drop to the floor and see a bloody mess. And him and her walk out, and they go, okay, she's safe. Now it's time to clean up the rest. And he says, okay, police and heroes, it's your turn. And he just walks away, and Eri is saved. And that is the last part of What If Deku was in Team Rainbow. Because he was a bad ass in this one. So he completely annihilated everybody. So I'm on to the What If Deku was a demon, and What If Deku was Kinpachi. So hopefully you guys like this one. See you guys next time. Bye.